Well, I talk really fast and I sometimes mumble my words, but if you need to find me after the meeting or after the session, I'm happy to meet with you and you can ask me all the questions you would love that I potentially could answer. So, all right, so upward and onward. Again, my name is Josh Hankins, a little bit about me, my favorite part of the talk. Of course, I got the disclaimer, this is me, nobody else. If you want to sue me, don't sue me. Give me a 5-minute head start so I can get an LLC up and you can sue that. Been working a very long time, obviously, as Justin said. All the cyber defense roles I've done, engineer, architect, analyst, incident handler, director of security. We did for the analytics arm for Kroger. Built that program up from scratch, all the cyber defense and some compliance fun with that as well. Keep busy with the certs, and right now I do the fun part of advising or on advisory boards for certain places. So, let's move on. Here's the agenda for the talk. 4 bullet points. Kick off with the AI panacea. I think that has a different definition for everybody, but I'll give you mine. And we'll go through use case, the unplanned. Spoiler alert, that's the incident response. And then the use case for a more planned cybersecurity project. And then I'll give you AI's, through the look of AI's lens through that. And then I'll conclude with a summary slide. And hopefully there's time to get through the reference materials. If not, I'll show it on the screen and you folks can get it later in YouTube or whatever. So there'll be some questions too, I guess, at the end. There's time. So anyway, the AI panacea promise. We're going to get gains in efficiency, productivity, and regain time with all this fancy technology. What are we going to do with this regained time? Of course, we're going to put it to work. We're not going to do anything fun with it. You can do what you want. I don't care. But this regained time at work becomes repurposed time, right? I was a director for 9 years, so I never said, oh, man, I got enough hours in the day to get everything done. I got every employee I need with all the skills, you know? I think we all have a laundry list of things that if I had one more person or if I had more time, I could get something done, right? So we're going to repurpose the time. Hopefully the AI that will grant us. And we can use that to take creative approaches. A lot of my talks are more about that layer 8, how to get buy-in and stuff. But there's some technical pieces in here too. We'll see if AI can help out with that, I guess, non-technical pieces. Spoiler alert, it can. So I think so. All right, the first use case, some IR in the cloud are fun, right? So, like I said, some of these details are left out on purpose. I can't say them in here, but if you want more detail, just find me later. Maybe I'll tell you, maybe you won't. Depends on the question, I don't know. So let's go over the IR process, our good friends from SANS, our 6 steps. For this talk, I'll be focusing on identification, containment, and eradication. Yeah. So first, let's go over the threat overview. So I was watching a baseball game. I was looking at Twitter. At the time, it was Twitter. I refuse to call it by the letter because I think that's weird. But someone was tweeting out about this Chaos DB vulnerability by Wiz. Did anybody know about that or hear about that one? You guys have to combat that one at all? Maybe I'll ring a bell here in a second. So, first thing I hear about this, well, it deals with Azure. I'm like, well, I know we run Azure wherever I was working at the time. I know we use Cosmos DB. I was like, please don't let the third one be right. But we do use Juniper notebooks. And this is an artist rendition of me. What happened was, I think it was a Thursday night. I was watching my baseball team and they were losing, unfortunately. So that took about an hour looking at the tweet, thinking about it, thinking, do we have this cloud architecture? Are we using these databases? And are we using the Juniper notebooks? At this point, it's in the cloud. Doesn't matter if it's prod or dev, right? Test, it's still an attack target. So, all right. Here's an overview of the vulnerability. So the good makers of Wiz found out our friends at Microsoft made a change because of the shared security model that did something to optimize with the Juniper notebook. When they did that, it allowed for some unfestive things noted here. So you got the remote account takeover, and then cloud credential theft, which is always a lot of fun. And then the exploitation became trivial. They went in through the Juniper notebook, and then once they got that key, they're able to do lateral movement, things like that. You can look it up, but I feel like the Wiz did a really good job explaining it. I guess they should since they found it. I like this diagram. And of course, what's the impact? Well, it's high risk to the business, could lead to ransomware and maybe data loss, I guess is a subset of ransomware, but there's also some things that folks don't talk about, like even if they don't do anything to this, they could just gather metadata artifacts about your network, about your cloud, maybe sell it to IAB, initial access broker, maybe enrich their dossier on you, attack you later. So even when folks don't get access or take data, they're gonna, or do something nefarious, they're gonna get those adjectives about you and keep building that script against you, right? So, little fun fact. I'm sure you folks know that, but it's nice to repeat it. So another hour passed. So, bummer. So during that time, I contacted the on-call for the people that own the cloud, whatever that meant. But parenthetically, before that, I got somebody on my team to start sifting through the logs to see if there was anything that was germane to Azure, Jupyter. Well, sorry, an old network guy. I should say NetScreen, a little joke. And then the other notebook, DB, whatever, we'll figure it out. So they're looking through the SIM, looking for those artifacts, right? So I went and called the on-call person for the cloud. Of course, it went perfect. I got the right person at the first, no, I didn't. So one thing we did really good, did really well, make sure I'm on the line. We had owners tied to every resource in the cloud. So at least there was some human I could call, and that human would tell me, that's not me, go call the other person, which is what I would expect. So I eventually got to the manager on call for data engineering and had talked to the database guys. This was a very long time. You'll see it'll take about just under 4 hours to get to the end of the rainbow, to talk, make a decision. And we found out that the person that we needed to regenerate the key, and that's what you have to do because the key was stolen, the best person to do that was not available to the next day. So we have a decision to make. Do we do it now with the second best person, or do we wait? And so I'm on the other side channel talking to my team, spoiler alert. Do you have anything definitive saying that we need to do this now? Yes or no? There wasn't anything definitive, but there wasn't anything that said not. So that's all I can say. So without some definitive proof, we decided to wait till the next day. We did some other things to increase our cyber defense mechanisms with extra alerting and things of that nature. So for more on the alerting side, monitoring, right? So moving to containment and eradication. So we scheduled a meeting for the next day, got everybody on the phone, your typical party line to solve a problem. I'm sure we've all been there. But now the risk is low. And I feel like I could stand behind my decision in terms of, hey, why did you wait 8 hours? Why'd you do this? Like, I feel like I had good answers for all of them, which I did. I was informing upper management what was going on, so I knew they were going to ask me, what do you recommend? That's why I'm here, right? So I was like, I wasn't too happy about waiting, but it was lower risk to the business. So after the key was regenerated and all that fun stuff, we still treated it like an incident. We did all the post-mortem things, but could never get any definitive proof that the thing was any nefariously done or anything like that. So 6 hour passes. All right, let's see how AI's turn. So since we're in Microsoft land, I thought it'd be good to work with AI or Copilot. That was HAL, by the way, if you don't remember that from 2001. All right. So let's try to taking baby steps here, because I'm assuming that the Copilot doesn't have any idea about what I'm talking about. So I want to make sure it knows before I start asking it questions. Don't worry, this is the first time you'll see me type out recorded because I suck at typing. The rest of I just cut and paste. So it's describing the vulnerability, obviously. And at the end, you'll see what links, references it has. So, I mean, to me, it all looks legit. Like it got the right thing on the first try. Now it knows about it in that session. So, I also use this Copilot version. This was my own Copilot dime, like about a year ago. So I'm sure it had some changes. I did 6 months personal testing, which Copilot, and another 6 months I've been on ChatGPT. Sometimes I call it Chatty G when we're best friends, but we're like doing really well. When it's not, it goes back to its surname. I don't know, whatever. So what's the IR exploitation details? I kind of need to understand how the attack vector works. I'd like to get to a point though, if I've got Azure environment and I have an enterprise Copilot license, why can't I just hop in the Copilot and have it interrogate my cloud and find it quicker, right? I'm sure that's coming. I think that can be done now. Just depends which level of access you have, right? But at the moment, I'm assuming that I don't, right? Like, well, wow, this is not good. All the same stuff we just talked about. Fun like that. So, oh, wow, that was so nice to answer it. Okay, that's actually really important. So let's move to the next guy. Let's see, what is the impact and response? Yeah, it takes me a while to find the thing. I like looking at two screens at the same time, make sure I paste it in. So let's ask the impact. I mean, that's really at the end of the day, is there an impact to the business, to the operations, to anything that's going to be catastrophic, right, for keeping things in motion? So it gives me an impact. I'm like, unauthorized access, vulnerability by spread. This isn't good. It gives me the mitigation steps. And still, I'm looking at the references it's doing, which is important, right? You don't want to have any hallucinations while you're basing your entire approach on how to potentially solve this incident, and maybe I mistyped the word and it thinks it's something else. That'll be unfestive. So I knew we had a decent amount of knowledge about Azure, but I knew there was something called KQL. Don't ask me to say that fast, 5 times fast. But I knew this could go through it. It's like SQL-ish. I was like, well, this is a way that we can run a query to find all the instances, right? So we know what we're up against. Maybe it's just one. Maybe it's 1,000. I don't know. Obviously, one's enough, right? But at the end of the day, they're going to be like, I'm going to get asked, how many vulnerable instances do we have of XYZ? Did you get them all? Are you sure you got them all? Can you double check? All the questions I would ask the person if the table's returned, right? So usually there's a typical, little bit more forceful question in that. So it gives me that, which is good. I'm like, let's try to find this for everything. This is very basic. Looking for a query that looks for those 3 instances of those characteristics of Juniper Notebook, Chaos DB, and if they're together, right? So, hopefully you folks can see that okay. It tells me what it's going to do. I can copy it out. It looks okay-ish. I don't know, but it looks better than what I could come up with in how many seconds they did that. I would have to look up what KQL is. How do I write it? Even if I wrote it or someone on my team wrote it, I'm going to have to get somebody who's more of a DBA-ish person to take a sniff at it, right? So let's say I can't get a hold of anybody or I'm too impatient. That's usually the deal. Yeah, I want to test this before I use it. Oh, that seems like a novel idea. So, because first I want to be asked, did you test it before you went through and eradicated all our Cosmos DB? Cosmos DB. I'm like, no, I didn't. Right? I just got a pay raise. I'm leaving. Right? I was supposed to be hitting the go button instead of pontificating. So, this type. What's that?
How long after
the real incident?
Yeah.
About 4 years later. So, we were like everybody else on our cloud journey. We had a different platform, and then one day somebody came in, it's like, well, we're not using it anymore, we're gonna use Azure. Everyone's like, okay, great. And how I found out that we had Cosmo DB and Juniper notebooks running, I just happened to be walking past one of the architects going to the bathroom, and I heard Juniper notebook. That's how I knew. Not the most savvy way to keep an inventory of your cloud assets, or instances or whatever. But I would also argue back that time, there wasn't a lot of CSPM and CA this and C this and cloud that, right? So, not that it's an excuse, it's not. I mean it is, but they're not gonna buy it, right? So, let's see, did I just run this? What am I doing now? I went through this once. Oh, okay. I'm gonna test this, yeah. Oh, how do I test it if I don't have the instance? Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't even know this thing existed, the Custo Explorer. Oh, that sounds good. ADX, I didn't know that it existed either. I can test this before I get it. Make sure nothing at least is gonna blow up, right? It's gonna get me faster to running the query to find out what my exposure is, right? So I'm like, well, okay, that worked out pretty well. I mean, I could have Googled that, but at least it takes my code or its code and like, this is how you do it, this is where you run it, right? So, yeah. So what were the results with that? So understanding the vulnerability and the attack path. Okay. I regained about 45 minutes. It was about under 2 hours of work, but we got it done in less than an hour. So I would say about 45 minutes. These times are estimates. You have to remember that was like 4 to 6 years ago, but I know exactly what happened because I know what time the baseball game was, what inning, and I know what time I went to bed. I know what time I got up, and I know what time I tried to get my Diet Coke and the place was closed, and then, which was true, and because we couldn't get on the call to 8. So I like my Diet Coke in the morning. Understanding the scope and impact and all that fun stuff. Took about 60 minutes. So if you look at those two items together, regained about, I would say 3 to 4 hours, say 4 hours solid of time back, right? I could do a lot of stuff by myself. I didn't have to call as many people. I could do some testing. And then implementing the fix. Yeah, I did Copilot. No, I didn't. I would never do that. At least not now. But maybe when things are better and things are tested and we love our Azure instance with Copilot commingled, maybe we can use agentic AI to do that. And we've tested it. I would still do a ticket. All right, so for the next one, this is the unplanned one. So this is launching DevSecOps for an enterprise at a place I worked was very developer heavy and friendly. I have a whole talk on that, but I'm not doing that. I did it at Ottawa BSides 2023. Anybody was there? No worries. I have a bunch of tips from that too. I put them in here, but I can go deeper in that if you want later. So this was my mandate, make operations for IT and everybody and security and developers happy, work together in synchrony. And I had goals for the 3 main parties, and I had some engagement strategies and results, and we'll like go back in time and look at it through the lens of AI. So I think we can all agree that tech is most time the easy part. It's getting the buy-in, talking to people, getting them to do what they want to do or what you want to do and what's in it for them and all that fun stuff. So now this isn't a tool. I mean, I did use a tool as part of this, but this was a lot of politicking, information sharing, empowerment. Took a lot of my political capital to get this one done. So, but I had clear goals for the developers and security and IT ops. You can see all that, but I noted the secure coding is code quality. That was a mantra I went back to all the time. So I didn't want them to see like I'm just doing this for security. Well, if you get a pull request, maybe your code doesn't do parameterization correctly, or it's vulnerable to SQL injection or whatever. Well, yeah, that's a security issue, but your code quality needs to be fixed, right? So, and the place I worked, the analytics company, there was always a focus on automation, regardless of what your level, what your job, what you had to deliver. If you could just remove one step every time you do it, that's what we did. We kept a list ledger too of like what we could automate. A lot of times you can't do it because you don't have the time, the money, right? Well, the technology isn't there. But keeping a list. I know it sounds kind of trite, because you never know. I used to get some things back in the day called favorability, which was finance accounting term for like, we got extra money, who wants it? So I would take it. I can always have my stuff ready to go. They know I'm a cheap person, keep it PG, and make sure we spend the money correctly, right? So that's the adoption strategy I took. The last 2 points, the education and matrix teams, I can talk about that after here, but I'm gonna focus, for this talk, I'm gonna focus on that. So how do you get the buy-in from the top, right? If I get that, I'm gonna make things slightly easier. I work with them to get this process as part of enterprise coding and engineering's goals is to adopt DevSecOps. So once I got adopted or pushed down from the top, it became their goals, which gave them the time to actually work on it. So this time, let's use ChatGPT and see what it can do. I'm sure it knows what DevSecOps is, but I'm gonna make sure I think it knows right, what I based on. I don't want it to be like, it gives me some recipe for something, I don't know, so. Yeah, I should probably make these a little bit shorter. There we go. Yeah, so core principles, automation, collaboration, monitoring, shared responsibility, the key practices. They mentioned SAS and DAS, SCA. I'll talk about SAS here shortly, what the benefits are. And I'm like, oh, this all sounds really good. Sounds similar to what I'm doing. This sounds pretty legit. So let's move on. Let's see. So if I can read this one. So when transitioning to an enterprise company to this new ways of working, what are the common resistance items I may encounter, specifically with cybersecurity, advocating for this new way of working for developers and software engineering? So I'm basically asking, how do you help me with adoption, right? So let's see what it says. It'd be funny if it said, talk to Josh, but it didn't. So it's like, I'm Josh, I'm talking to you. Great question, well, thank you. Culture resistance, oh, shocker. Org resistance, double shocker. Tech resistance, yeah, I guess if people like their tools, whatever. Leadership and governance barriers, yeah. Practical strategies, ooh, that looks good. Shift from policing to partnering, I did that. Develop-centric approach, yeah, I had that. Executive alignment, yep, did that. Training enablement, I spent my own money on that. Well, I got money from finance to help with training because I didn't want them to be like, I don't know how to fix this stuff. Well, here's the training, all right? And incremental adoption, yeah, we did that. We did a lot of feedback loops too. This was like over a 2-year period too. So, like, oh, that sounds pretty good. So, let's see. Is it going? Oh yeah, I think it is. Maybe? Oh, there it is. Yeah, I was trying to move the mouse over to the other screen so I could hit the go button. So, connect to the interests for them, how the change will help them, involve them in the process. Yeah, I made sure I did that with IT ops. They had the people that ran, it's called the platform team. They're the ones that did the integration with the pipelines and things like that, Jira and all that. Make sure they had some say in the game because they were going to run the tool, but we're going to take artifacts out of it. It was a SaaS or whatever, but they made sure that it was hooked into the pipeline correctly. So if I have to give them I gave them definitely time to help think out and help pick it because they're going to be the ones supporting it, so they better be on board with it. Doesn't mean they had the final decision, but I need their input. So, yeah, start with the small wins and this key principle at the bottom. I think we all know that that's not a big epiphany, but it's good to hear it. It validates things, right? So, so went back to my, oops, that's the best slide. All right, I went back to my college days and thought about the philosophy class I took. I was like, well, I think some of the great thinkers on the planet can help me forge my argument or persuasion that I have a solid case going to talk to the VP or whatever. I don't have a problem talking to people, obviously. I'll talk to anybody about anything at work. I'll talk to the CEO if I think I have to. Some of you who are in leadership roles may find that a bit daunting, but I use these prompts to help come up with ways to think about what they would say and have the counter argument built in. I kind of call it the Pong approach. You had the thing going back and forth. So submit your idea to the prompt, and you play the role of the person you're trying to convince and have the two machines argue against each other, two different screens, right? So then you can take that data, the outcomes from both, put it in a different session, have it do like a heuristic combination. So your points are across, they're still being heard, but at the end of the day, you don't really care as long as you get what you want, move your project forward without being a jerk. So that's the most important thing. So I may be old. I didn't take philosophy with those guys. They didn't teach me. Close to it. All right. So this is the output from the first year. So RGA means revenue generating application. So companies exist for basically two reasons: make money or provide a service, or both, right? So I started with the two applications that made the most amount of money for the org. I wanted their stuff connected into the SaaS tool in the pipeline. I wanted their experience with it. I was going to help build credibility that it was working, it wasn't breaking. And so when I went to other dev streams down the road, it's like, oh, I don't have time for that. Well, the one that makes us 30% of our money did it. Go talk to them. They have a good experience, things like that. So we got to our goals with July and November. Also had some pretty talented college kids I had access to. And at the time, we were pretty big on dashboarding. I'm sure everybody is still. But the new CIO or whatever was having this enterprise dashboard. So each team or group had their own, and they would all feed back roll up into the big enterprise one. So that's why we had a dashboard fronting the SaaS tool. The SaaS tool was good, I have to admit. It was a low entry point for it, and it did a lot of good for us. But it was also beyond the metrics of saying which dev stream was getting better or whatever. We also had metrics in terms of the number of defects going down, or which dev stream has the least amount, which one has the most. Is it easy for the developers to get to the dashboard and click and get to the SaaS tool? Yeah, they just had to click it, and it took them right to the error message they needed to do. If they didn't know how to fix it, the person that committed the code, that person's name was in there, they could go talk to that person, right? I couldn't get that person to talk to the person, but I figured at that point I've done everything for them. So we also did some surveys. 15 minutes, I got 20 more slides. We also did sentiment surveys. We're really big on that where I worked, like you have the right tools to do your job. So I sent my own out. Hey, how do you think DevSecOps is going? Good, bad, ugly. I also had DevSecOps office hours. People could drop in, ask questions, things like that. So definitely wasn't from a lack of trying and getting it done. So we're going to look into what AI could have done in terms of the dashboard for SaaS. So this was the original dashboard. I know a lot of it's blacked out. Sorry. It's Grafana. We can say that. So basically, if you see anything in green, it was 90% or higher. That means that dev stream met the threshold and was in certain parameters. The people are 25 were bad, and yellow was like in the 80s. You could click on that button that would take you, you could click on the radial there. It would take you to that specific dev stream. And these are the top items that need to be fixed. So it would just take you right to the tool and it'd tell you exactly what you need to do. But what I liked about it, it told exactly where people were on their journey, right? So I met with the developer leads all the time and VPs and stuff, not all the time, but when I needed to. I had some recurring meetings with some of the people that were more strategic, getting the tactical things done. The point of this is I kept on telling them, this dashboard's coming. This dashboard's coming. 3 months, 2 months, 1 month. About 3 weeks, they're like, oh, I go, this one's going to be seen by the new guy, right? You know that. I'm like, oh, yeah. So I got on a call with them. I said, click that. I said, and it took him there. was like, these are the things you need to fix. Oh, this is pretty easy. It tells me what I need to do. I'm like, yes, thank you. And then I went home and screamed in my pillow. No, it wasn't quite like that. People are busy, I get it. Just had to click twice, they would find their answer. That's fine. It's okay. Right. Let's see what AI can do for this. So that'll make sense once I go through the other slide. So let's act like that is a button that can be clicked. And it will give us what AI thinks. Well, next slide will tell you what that's going to be about. So yeah, we got a lot of data coming out of SaaS tools. I'm not going to say names, but sometimes SaaS tools can generate a lot of noise. Sometimes it's valuable, sometimes it's not. How do you know? It's a lot to go through, right? So let's maybe ChatGPT trained right and what it knows it's looking for, see what it can do. Let's look for some low-hanging fruit. Let's also have it, give it some developer-ready fixes. I call them more proposals. I don't want to call it fix. But this was a sample prompt I came up with in terms of if the ChatGPT had access to all the data that came out of the SaaS tool, and I wanted to mine it and then look for things to accelerate making things more frictionless, I think that's the term, for the developers to be more self-serve, stuff like that. So this is a pie in the sky prompt. I like it. It's everything I would want it to do. I like the fact that too, it also put it in their backlog. I'm sure we all heard we'll do it in our backlog. It's on our backlog. That backlog never gets looked at. Anyway, so did the panacea come true? Well, for the first one, for both, I help with efficiency and less friction for sure. I got about 4 to 5 hours back from the IR event. Again, this is a retrospective going back in time. I'll say it in my DeLorean, right? Looking at see what's going on. DSO means DevSecOps. Did it help with the project launch and maturing? It validated the approach, at least on the right path. It would validate my ideas of how to gain upper management, developers and org, and hopefully less frustration for me. And then pro tip, when you're working with people you need to convince, you use that Pong method of constructing a prompt. I think we all know about social engineering to help. I'm using that term kind of tongue-in-cheek, but use that, sprinkle in wisdom from your favorite debaters, and you want to bolster your outcome of your ask, right? So let's all face it, most of the time, people don't always see us as the happiest people to work with, or they want to come work with us. So anytime you can do things in terms of making it easier for them and removing that moniker of the big bad boogeyman security person. So it's helpful. Did AI save us? I don't know, but save some time, saves less frustration, so that's good. So here are the key reference materials. Of course, replay the SANS list. I'm sure folks know this, but every cloud service provider has a well-architected blueprints you can use to talk about your setup, your security, your compliance framework. Those are good to re-mention. Go through this. In case you didn't know, OWASP has some really good resources out there in terms of your AI journey. And I like the checklist. I'm a big fan of checklists and your resources. And NIST, I'm sure we're all familiar with that. I like this one a lot. This will take you to some Mongo spreadsheet they have in a Google's doc that talks about the right language and it defines it. Let's get through that. You get this nice roadmap. The risk management framework for AI, that's really good. I do a lot of assessments for my clients, whether I'm using NIST 853 or 800-37. All those things kind of run together, but how are we measuring it? And NIST is always good because it's universal, right? So, all right, that is the end. I appreciate your time. Thanks.